Greetings. My name is Stephen Russell. I am the Dean of the Central New Jersey Chapter of the American Guild of Organists. In February of 2025, I moderated this Zoom workshop on Hauptwerk organs. It was co-sponsored by the Central New Jersey Chapter and our neighbors here in New Jersey, the Middlesex Chapter. 3 Hauptwerk organ owners presented information on and demonstrations of their Hauptwerk installations. Kathleen Connolly, former Dean of the Central New Jersey Chapter and our current Treasurer. David Citron, member of the Central New Jersey Chapter and former board member of the Monmouth Chapter. And Shea Velloso, former Dean of the Middlesex Chapter.
I live in Pennington, and I bought my instrument a year ago in January 2024 from Meta Organ Works, run by Dan Lemieux, near Saratoga Springs, New York. We had discussed this instrument by phone, and I went to their shop to see it. I think a little backstory is useful. I had dibs on a 4-manual Baldwin C480 from the 1990s that had MIDI, and I was initially searching for someone who could convert it to Hauptwerk, as I felt just totally unequipped to do that myself. But people do it themselves. That search really wasn't fruitful. I approached Meta, among others, with this question, and Meta's answer was that they could do it for not less than $75,000, which for me was a dead end. Meta was interested in that 1990s Baldwin because of another client they had who was going to spend that kind of money. So they offered the instrument that I ended up buying if I would get them the Baldwin, which I did. They built the instrument that I bought about 8 years previously and used it as a rental instrument. It was actually on Long Island at Cathedral of the Incarnation. This instrument is a 3-manual and has 18 sample sets on it. Those 18 include a harpsichord and a carillon. The computer is maxed out, so I can't add anything more, any other sample sets, without taking something away. They didn't build the console. The console is from Classic MIDI Works, along with the pedal board. But Meta has spent the last many years developing their own console and bench. The keyboards on my instrument are FATAR. I have Acer touch screens, 2 of them, one right behind my head here, that show the stops of whatever sample set I'm playing. And the Windows 10 computer in it, which is located somewhere back there behind the scenes, was optimized for Hauptwerk by Audio Dog, DAWG, in Texas. The computer is single purpose. Its only job is my organ, and it does not go online. It's not capable of going online. I have a Hauptwerk version 4 license, and they have put out later versions beyond 4 at this point. The user manual, which is 231 pages, is actually on the computer, so I can easily get it. The sample sets are made by a few different companies, including Sonus Paradisi and Milan, which I think are the 2 major vendors of sample sets. And sample sets are expensive. They are like $400, $500 or more. In last June, the AGO on their discount page had an offer for 15% off of Hauptwerk licenses and sample sets by Milan. Milan is run by the guy who actually invented Hauptwerk, I believe. I expect that discount is still there. I just didn't look. The 2 speakers, there and there, are Dynaudio 10-inch studio monitors, and they're heavy. They weigh 41 pounds apiece. Hauptwerk organs in general are all about sampling or recording existing organs in the world, each pipe up close and also at a distance to include room acoustics, and the capacity to offer choice in what instrument you want to play with high quality sound. Obviously the speakers matter, but you can choose to play on headphones. Practically every characteristic of the sound is adjustable, certainly including the volume, including the reverb in the room, the reverb that you hear, on the sample sets, the pitch. You can easily change the temperament you're playing in, and you can change the pitch overall, or you can retune a single pipe if you don't like it. You can change the volume by overall, by rank, and even by pipe. And this instrument can record what you play. So later on, Stephen has a recording to play that I made on this instrument. Meta Organ Works was on the cover of the AGO Journal in August 2023 with its organ for the Groton Hill Music Center in Massachusetts. And Meta took an organ to the AGO San Francisco National Convention last year for sales. I paid a total of $23,525, and I'll break that down a little bit. $20,195 includes the value of the Baldwin that I got for them, and it includes the Hauptwerk license, and it includes all the 18 instruments that are on my organ. The speakers cost $2,950. And then small expenses, I bought speaker isolation pads to prevent vibrations. They were $180. And speaker boxes I had made for me to hold the speakers up at the right height. You'd like that. You'd like those speakers pointed right at your ear, whatever the listener's ear is. In my case, it's me, the player. I think I got a good deal. It's been terrific. I've had no issues so far. I generally set it up to prepare for the 3-manual Allen Renaissance that I play weekly at church. It's a big, huge improvement over the 2-manual 1950 Baldwin. That was my previous practice instrument. It was full of vacuum tubes. And Christopher Rios Suverkurba, did I say that right by any chance, Christopher? You can give me a thumbs up or something. I don't know. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. He owns that organ now. It's a beautiful piece of furniture, but it is 1950 technology. And so don't confuse that with the 1990s Baldwin that I had dibs on that went to Meta Organ Works. There's a large learning curve, I think, with this thing. And honestly, I really stick to just a couple of the instruments on it, and I haven't explored a lot of others in depth. My particular instrument doesn't have divisional pistons. It has generals, which are actually on the stepper system, which is about using those next and previous buttons, which I adore. I think they're terrific. But my church doesn't have them on the organ, so I don't make a lot of use of them at home. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of levels. It starts off with 32 combination, what do they call them? Combinations, I guess. And each one of those combinations has 999 generals on it. So there's kind of endless memory. I can name files individually. There's a computer keyboard located right here that I can just pull out and type into. The 2 sample sets that I use most frequently are the Rosales Opus 11 in Trinity Episcopal Cathedral in Portland, Oregon, built in 1984 to 87, and the Kiedrich sample set. Kiedrich is a town in Germany, and elements of this organ date from 1500. In my search for someone to convert the 1990s Baldwin, I found some helpful Facebook groups. There's a group by the name of Hauptwerk Virtual Organ Users, which is really helpful. And there are actually people on there who will tell you how to build your own instrument. There are also people on there selling components, people selling MIDI instruments like that 1990s Baldwin for conversion. There's another website called Vintage Organs for Sale, which you would, you could find MIDI capable instruments or non-MIDI capable instruments on there. And an electronic organ garage sale website, Facebook page. These are all Facebook pages. The dimensions of my instrument are 62 inches wide by 57 or 58, but that doesn't include the height of the speakers, by 50 or 51 deep back to the wall. And that includes room for the bench. The speakers are 18 high by 14 depth by 11 wide. The whole thing is not a unit. The organ itself is not a unit. And so components were just moved separately. The computer, the console, the keyboards, the pedal board, the speakers. I didn't have any trouble with doorways, but I do have double doors where it came in. I don't know the weight. My 4-manual Baldwin that I did have in my garage was 830 pounds. I don't know how that compares to the total weight here. Meta Organ Works delivered and installed the instrument for me. They used dollies to some extent to get it from their truck, but they just carried things up the steps, and certainly some things were quite heavy. Meta Organ Works was extremely nice to work with, and in fact, they stayed over at my house a night while they were setting up the organ. I do have a recording to play later, but first, do you have any questions about my instrument?
On the combination action, when you get to the end of the generals, does it go automatically from there to the next memory level?
Sorry, we're in the same room, so we've got an echo going. Turn your speaker off.
Yeah, okay.
So I'll repeat the question. So Kevin's asking, does it automatically, if you go up to general, actually it'll go up to general 999.
But you don't have that on the console.
I do in a way. I mean, so when it gets to 9 here,
yeah,
then it automatically goes to 10. And when it gets to 19, then it automatically goes to 20. And when it gets to 99, it automatically goes to 100.
One button.
On the next and previous buttons, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can just keep going, you know, from level to level to level.
Yeah, you got to hit the next and previous, you know, to do it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
But
which you can get it either by hand or by foot.
But that's very handy.
Oh, it's very handy.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Other questions?
Out of curiosity, for the Hauptwerk license, is it a license that you own, or do you have to renew the license every year?
You own it.
You own it fully. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like, you know, again, it's like the price of a sample set, I think. I'm guessing. I don't really know. 400, 500, something like that. I don't know how well you're going to hear this recording. It sounded terrible coming through my phone, but Stephen can give it a try.
Thank you for that lovely performance and for the lovely picture we got to watch. The very spring picture. David?
All right. I am alphabetically early. So my name's David Citron, as you can see, and you probably don't actually know me because I was a member of the Monmouth American Guild of Organists, RIP, for years and years. I joined Monmouth in like 1999, and I was a webmaster and organized a bunch of recitals and stuff. And then eventually Monmouth fell apart. I don't know what now, Stephen, like 6, 7 years ago, I guess.
Oh, yeah, at least.
And the website still exists, which I built, but in which I have a little database of local organs. Who knows how many of them are? Anyway, the OHS is a better one. But yeah, so I'm a happy member now of Middlesex and Central Jersey. So I represent both of the chapters that this little talk is about. And I might be, I don't know, I guess we'll have to see when Shea built his, but I actually got into the Hauptwerk hobby in 2014, believe it or not. I just had to look and see how long ago I started with mine. So first thing I could do is share a couple things on like a share screen sort of. Oh, screen sharing is not turned on. Oh,
Now it is.
okay. And then I'll show the actual thing. Let's see here. I'll just share my whole screen. So the first thing I wanted to kind of go through a little bit is how do I get rid of this? Oh, there we go. So this is how I started. It's like that meme, like how it started, how it's going. Back in 2014, I started with a setup that was just like this. This is in fact like a folding table that you would put out to put your appetizers on for a picnic, and my bench was just like a square box, and the music stand was a square box. The components that I started with and that I still have today, that you see in this picture, are keyboards from Classic MIDI Works, which is the same company that Kathleen said that she had gotten her pedal board from. And my pedal board, probably the exact same pedal board that she has, also from Classic MIDI Works. The touch screens in my case were Dell touch screens. This exact product doesn't exist anymore, of course, but you can get touch screens from various vendors. And the what's it called? The swell shoes were also and are also from Classic MIDI Works. So I kind of was like a Classic MIDI Works person. So just show a couple of other pictures of what the components look like. So I was a real kind of DIY person. So when you buy the keyboards, if you buy them separately, they're kind of like molded so that they can sit on top of each other, and it's stable. Like they just sit like that. There's not, that they're heavy enough that they're not going anywhere unless there's a massive earthquake or something. But the Classic MIDI Works sells them like this, so you can get them with or without wooden key feel. You can get them with or without lighted pistons or unlighted pistons. And so I kind of went for plastic keys with a so-called tracker touch. I guess he's got a couple of different touch styles that he sells, but the tracker touch has a little bit of escapement, meaning that as you push the key down, it resists a little bit and then kind of pops past and stays down. More like, I mean, probably most instruments that you would play feel like that. I had a Viscount back in the 80s that was just like spring keys, squishy spring keys, and it made me crazy because like the keys are always pushing back on you. So this feels, this one feels nice. There's a pedal board from that perspective. And everything you kind of, I mean, if you're the sort of person to put it together, you can kind of put it together yourself. Everything comes with like screws and instructions for wiring it all up. So this is just to kind of, because when I show the setup now, it's a little bit more built into a piece of furniture. So as you can kind of see, what it looks like naked, so to speak. And then a friend of mine actually built, here he is doing it, putting it together. He actually built the desk and then put it together in my house. So to answer the question of doorway size and so on, because he's a professional furniture builder, he made it in such a way as that it could come up. I just have a door that I can barely get through and a single flight of stairs that are too steep. Nevertheless, it was fine. Like even carrying my tuba up and down the stairs is kind of hard, but this came in. The hardest thing actually was the pedal board. The pedal board's heavy. It was actually delivered by a tractor trailer. Tractor trailer pulled up in front of my house. um, and the guy kind of like pulled it out and laid it down. He was like, "All right, it's your problem now." So luckily, I'd been using the gym, so I could get that inside. You might want to help for something like that. A lot of people also will purchase. Kathleen was mentioning these Facebook groups where people buy and sell stuff. A lot of people are selling old pedal boards from decommissioned electronic organs that you can retrofit for MIDI if you're really DIY kind of person. So I'll stick with one thing at a time. So I'll show a couple other browser tabs here first, and then go to the real world. But it kind of came together like this, and then I'll show it. This is the website, Classic MIDI Works, that midiworks.ca. They're in Canada, so I guess and everything's by category. Different kinds of keyboards, pedal boards, swell shoes. Rocker tabs, which I don't have, toe studs, which I do have. He even sells desks, if you like. And he even sells a Zimbalistern, if you want to really annoy people. I guess that one ruins the ability to use the organ with headphones alone. And benches and so on. And another person who I didn't use, but I chatted with a bit, and I find him to be a very lovely human, is the person who runs Hauptwerk Consultant, Francois Ratte. I don't know if any of you have come across him. He runs a business kind of, selling out his services to, I think he's the one who built the setup in Red Bank. Don't quote me on that, but I'm almost sure. And the last browser tab to point out, and we can, share all this out later. Kathleen mentioned all the lovely Facebook groups. And also one more thing to mention is that on hauptwerk.com itself, their forums are incredible. They're incredibly vibrant. Look at this, 38,000 posts in general discussion, 30,000 posts in Hauptwerk instruments. It's just like, you could come in here every day and just read. People have written all kinds of tips and tricks about how they built their consoles. You can see people in like Norway who have completely glass organ consoles that they play on. And it's just insane. All kinds of help for computer and audio interfaces and whatever. And the people in there are slightly more friendly than the average forum, which is to say they might call you an idiot, but probably they'll help you also. Another thing to screen share about, I suppose, is we were talking about costs. That was one of our bullets. So in my case now, these are the costs that I spent in 2014. Times have changed. The whole world's different. Pandemics happened. So you're not going to probably find these prices anymore. But I managed to get these three keyboards for this much, for about $4,000. The pedal board was $1,700. You can check the website now to see what they are. 16 toe studs for $500 total. The 3 swell shoes. Shipping was $450. I did build my own computer because I'm that kind of a dork, which cost me about $1,300. I mean, you could probably do it for a lot less at this point. Basically, you want SSDs and I don't know. It doesn't really matter. At this point, anything you buy in 2025 is going to be plenty. The perpetual license for Hauptwerk at the time was $600. As Kathy said, there's sales if you keep an eye. It all came around to $10,000 before the sample sets. Of course, sample sets are $500 each, and it can become an obsession. So we won't add up what that ended up being. But you can have a perfectly functional, playable organ for if you're willing to put together a lot of it yourself. Well, the desk, yeah, I guess I missed the desk. The desk was like $2,300 or something, $3,000 to my friend, so like $1,300. In terms of sample sets, yeah, Sonus Paradisi does a glorious job sometimes on some of his sample sets. OAM, some really nice ones. Lavender Audio has a couple of glorious ones. The Hauptwerk guy himself has. All right, I'm going to switch over to show the setup now, which I have a cute idea to do it this way. All right, did that work? You can see my phone moving around, right? Oh, man. Let's see, can I pin that tab? Ah, look at this. Now you can, right?
Fortunately not.
Really?
I see you.
Does nobody see my actual?
Oh, I see it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
it's on
I was,
another screen. Not not
It's a different, I'm on twice. I couldn't figure out companion mode for Zoom. All right, so here's the setup now. So this is the, let's see, I have a little light here to help. This is the lovely desk and bench that my friend built. As you can see, he built the other furniture in the room, so it kind of matches. One thing that I did, I know Kathy had a really nice lamp. I ended up going for this kind of lighting, which I don't know, I found kind of nice. So there's you can buy these LED strips and then kind of connect the whole thing together. And there's the toe studs, and this is what the whole thing looks like with combination action on every keyboard. In my case, for the monitor arm, for the screens, I just kind of went for move this over. I just went for like the kind of monitor arms that you would use for a desk at work to hang up the touch screens. This is like the most DIY thing possible, probably. I have my little speakers, which I'll talk about in a second, on these little, there's a vain or a futile attempt to try to make it sound good in the room, but that's a different story. And then you can see, like, here's a little bit too many wires of clutter here, but I have a power strip here with a remote control to turn it on and off, and everything's just kind of MIDI together. And I got some hymnals in case that becomes relevant. And I started out actually using the same computer for my main computer rig as for the Hauptwerk, and it got to be a bit much, so I ended up just putting together a separate computer, a mini tower in the corner here. I am actually using a shared audio interface, so it's USB to both, so I can use the same headphones whether I'm on my computer or on my Hauptwerk setup, and then the speakers. So to talk about sound quality, as you can see, I've been not focusing that much on trying to get great speakers in here, and it's definitely been a problem. I think, Kathleen has her 85 pounds of speakers, might be a better choice. I end up finding that if I'm just trying to work something out sort of quickly, then, I'll switch back to this now, to me. If I'm trying to work something out quickly, I'll use the speakers, but for practicing something that I actually care about, I pretty much always use headphones in my case, because the problem is there's actually I'd be interested to hear at the end how Kathleen feels about the sound in her room. A pipe organ, the sound comes out of 3,000 different spots when you're sitting in the room, and you can kind of tell. And if you just have a couple of speakers, some people put surround speakers and you try to get a subwoofer, but you're just trying to simulate in a small room and with just a few point sources the same effect that you might get in a large space. And to me, I never really find it. I find everything kind of sounds a little bit like crunched together. On headphones, on the other hand, pretty nice experience. So we'll just go over to the console for a second here. Look at this. Look at this. And just to expand a little bit on some stuff that Kathleen pointed out, one thing that is kind of lovely about the whole experience is that for any given sample set, you can map any button to any function and any swell pedal and any, anything that you have, any MIDI controller that you have. So like in her case, she has next, previous, and it can vary by sample set. So here, I could have general 1, through 10 and divisionals, or, these could be steppers, this could be, the choir combinations for one instrument, for one sample set. It could be generals 11 through 15 for a different sample set. Over the years, the software has added abilities to have both global and per instrument settings. So I've tried to set up some global settings to not make myself crazy. So as I'm switching between sample sets, things remain the same. So I just kind of decided for myself that, these are going to be generals, whatever, and these are going to be something else. But this is always going to be swell to pedal or something like that. But that's one thing that's I would say a little funny about the Hauptwerk world. I'd be interested to hear what Shea says about his experience with this, because the sample sets are all different. They all have different, maybe you have a sample set that's got 9 divisionals, and you're like, well, there's only 5 buttons, now there's 3 over here. Now what do I do? There's a lot of discussion about that online. Like, you sort of just try to remember where things are. But the kind of nice thing is that the touchscreen, you kind of get used to quickly pushing and pulling stops this way. You can kind of, I don't know, can you see what I'm doing? You can kind of click and drag in a way. They don't support multi-touch currently. I asked about that, but you can kind of pull them that way. I suppose there's a risk of getting too used to that, and then when you go to an actual church, just stabbing at the buttons and expecting them to do something, like, trying to turn a page, instead you're stabbing at your iPad, or vice versa. But and speaking of which, I do tend to use all of my music on iPad, and you can even set up your console to have a page turn button or a page turn toe stud to go next and previous. In fact, I just subbed at a church where the actual organ console had a next and previous page turn button that you could Bluetooth to your iPad, or you could be like Steven and duct tape a foot switch to your thigh or whatever. That's his patented solution. But yeah, the thing that I find really nice about this, and let me see if I can just show it, is, with a mouse, you can right click on any control in the interface, and you can click a button to have it learn what you want to control that thing. So suppose that there's a button on screen that's, general 3, and you want it to be this button. You can just right click and say learn, you press 3, boom, it lines up, and then click OK. Similar to MIDI learn and other MIDI, like DAWs or whatever, if you've used them. What else do I want to talk about? And yeah, for me, the experience in the end of having the thing in the house, whatever the trade-offs might be, it's 100% worth it. Before I had this, I would be like, oh, I got to learn some music. I have to get in the car. I got to put on a jacket, go out there, find a parking spot, snowing, all this thing. Now you can sit down for just like a piano for 15 minutes. You can practice. It's amazing, right? Like there was no 15 minutes of practicing when you have to drive to a church to practice. It's either the whole night or you're not going to do it at all. And it's just kind of lovely to play around with different, ideas and registration ideas, and have that sort of sitting right there. Does it make me practice as much as I should? No, but do I feel like I should be practicing more? Yes. So if you want to feel like you should be practicing more, it's also good for that. I'll pause for questions.
Did you find, I suppose this is specific to you, but I guess it could also apply to Katie, did you find when you're purchasing parts from different vendors that it was easy to bring them together, or was there kind of I don't know what the proper terminology is, like a conversion process between one vendor's proprietary machinery versus another?
So I'm a professional software engineer and lifelong dork. So, not everything was the easiest thing ever, but I'm the sort of person who enjoys tinkering around with something until it finally works, maybe hours later or maybe days later. One of my key qualities is I'm patient with myself. If you get frustrated with technology, I feel like I've said this in other forums when people ask me, if you're the sort of person who's frustrated with yourself easily, then you probably shouldn't play the pipe organ. But if you're frustrated with yourself easily, or if you are the kind of person who is instantly angry the moment that a computer doesn't do what you want it to do, then you have to think really hard about whether this is what you want in your life or not, because it is just a computer. Mine's also running Windows 10, like Kathleen's. You can try Mac OS if you want, but no matter what you do, there's going to be something that, unless you pay somebody, of course, to build the whole thing for you, and then never touch it again. Like, I thought that was really smart that Kathleen said hers is not in the internet, there's never updated, it's still Hauptwerk 4, don't touch it, just play it. That can totally work for you. But like a lot of these things, if I make the mistake of trying to improve something, it could totally destroy it. I'll be like sitting there going, wait, why is it like crackling now? What did I change? What was the setting that I set 14 years ago? That kind of thing. So yeah, that one I think is kind of hard for me. It's hard for me to advise that you build it all yourself unless you love the process. You have to love the process. If you just want the destination, then you should definitely pay the premium for somebody else to build it for you.
I have two
Duly
questions.
noted. Thank you.
I have two questions on that point. Are you willing to hire yourself out to someone who would like to build one in their house? And our mutual friend Seth, is he available to build custom furniture around that?
It's funny. I asked Seth if I should pitch his services on this call, and he was like, "Yeah, okay." He's a little bit out of the furniture building business at this moment, but I don't think he's going to say no to a contract. The desk is really nice, right?
Go ahead, Kevin.
And the bench. I guess you have a better than me tinkering around on here. You have a video or something, right, Stephen, for that purpose
The video
of the setup in action.
Oh yeah. They can watch the video, certainly.
Better than me noodling around on it. But were there other questions before that?
Yeah, can you hear me? It's Kevin Daly.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, one of my fantasies, I guess you might call it, is, or one of my hopes is that these digital installations can constitute a whole new future for the organ literature, playing it for small groups in people's homes. It's a salon concert thing. Now, I mean, in your circumstance, do you have room in there for chairs?
Not really.
Okay.
I barely have room for tubas, but there are people. I could send a link out later on, but over the course of the pandemic, there were some people with really beautiful setups in their homes who started live streaming home concerts from their Hauptwerks. You can find them in the forums, and it's exactly as you said. So, people would put 10 or 12 chairs, or nobody at the beginning of the pandemic, but as time went on, put 10 or 12 chairs in there and have people come and listen to a concert, especially if you have nice surround speakers, which I don't. That could definitely be something. And the nice thing is, you want to play German repertoire, pull up a German sample set. You want to play French repertoire, pull up a sample set from Kahn.
But it's also setting up a scenario where people don't have to go to church to hear organ music. I mean, there are people who would just rather not go to church.
Right.
And I'm not judging that one way or the other. But also, you just have the comfort of being in somebody's home, and you can have an intermission with wine and cheese, and all of that. And it just seems like an interesting prospect, if you will. Yeah.
Definitely proselytize in the comfort of your own home if you wanted to,
Mm-hmm. Well, I had a friend. He's since moved away, but he had a very nice. He had a house in a gated community that was really fancy and nice.
And he had 22 speakers.
22, yeah. I mean, he had a real installation. This was before Hauptwerk. It was a Copeman Hart organ,
right,
with 60-something stops, but he had room for 50 or 60 people in his living room.
Well, that's
and he had salon concerts that people loved.
It's beyond what I would call a living room, but yeah.
Well, no, it was ample enough. Let's say. But I mean, he had concerts that really went over, and it was the kind of audience that didn't ordinarily listen to organ music, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's the fact that organ is inextricably associated with church, especially in the U.S., has been a major stumbling block for a lot. I know it's a very controversial topic that people yell about on Facebook all the time, but I do think it's kind of a shame. I always encourage people to go hear the Ocean Grove, or even though it's kind of a church, they have a concert series in the summer that is outside of the context of the church. If anything in Ocean Grove is ever outside the context. Well, it's like such a wonderful sounding instrument, and people just have this association at this point of whatever.
But we finally have digital instruments that can really give a good representation of the literature.
For sure. You do need a great speaker arrangement to be convincing, and
but beautiful samples too.
Right. Yeah. The samples, some of these samples are just. This is actually the Armley Shoots or whatever from the UK, sampled by Lavender Audio, and it really with headphones you really feel like you're there because you hear the valves opening on the.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyway.
On that note, just to kind of quickly add, not to interrupt things, I think it would be interesting to see to what degree. I mean, Hauptwerk's been here for a while, but to what degree, if any, organ builders who are building kind of the material instruments are incorporating Hauptwerk technology, whether or not they're, if they have a 32-foot that they're using a speaker for, as opposed to a real pipe, if they're using Hauptwerk technology for that, and what kind of collaborations might arise from,
I haven't seen it. I've only seen it
incorporated.
with Walker, but
You have.
I have not seen it. I've only seen it with like Walker, but
Got it.
the reason could be that Hauptwerk is it's a desktop application. It requires a PC or a Mac, which means that you have to then be in the business of maintaining a PC or a Mac.
Got it. So it's a software specifically. It's not, there's no hardware associated with it.
I mean, there's not, I don't know, unless somebody knows something I don't. I don't believe that anybody sold a specific, it's the thing's written to run on Windows or Mac OS. So in the end, you need that operating system. And there's a lot of little goofy things about that. Like, I mean, I don't have the keyboard attached to this, which I thought was a really nice feature of Kathy's of console. So if I want to, I have like minimize or restore and maximize for the actual software mapped to buttons on the console, and then like on a touch screen, I can hit like the Windows key. And if I need to type something on the keyboard, I have to like pop up the virtual keyboard and start tapping like it's, I don't know. It's really not ideal. So for me, saving combination sets with names is like helps if you stick your tongue out, I guess. But yeah, it's not quite elevated beyond the world of being a desktop application on a Windows or a Mac. Like that's a mouse over here, And some people complain about that. Some people are like, I don't want a mouse on my organ unless it's in the pipes squeaking.
I'd like to let Shea go, and maybe we could have more of this discussion after he's done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyone else? Okay, so Shea?
All right. I'm Shea, for those of you who don't know me. This organ, it's definitely not as nice a setup by far, but as either of the other ones that you've seen today. But I sort of did it myself. It was at a time when it was during the pandemic, and I thought I live pretty far from my church, almost an hour, and I really didn't want to have to go there to do any practicing. So I went online and I looked at classic organ works, and a lot of this stuff is very expensive. And I just so happened to go on Facebook, and somebody on Marketplace was selling 4 manuals, a table, a pedal board, and a bench for $750. And the first thing I did was hit, is it still available? And I didn't even see who it was. It was somebody that I happen to know who's an organist who lives 2 towns over from me. And he was incorporating his Hauptwerk organ into an Allen console that he already had. I mean, he already has like 5 harpsichords and a small 1 manual pipe organ and everything you could possibly imagine in his house. So I guess he or his wife wanted him to downsize. I don't know. And so I didn't even message my wife. I just said, I'll take it. And so that's what I did. But yeah, there are ways you can get a nice setup without having to break the bank. I mean, I wouldn't have the really nice top of the line, higher end stuff from Classic. But the nice thing about it is if you have any kind of keyboard that's MIDI capable, you can hook it up to this and make it work. So you can take some piece of junk MIDI keyboard from 1998 if it still works and plug it in, and you can get the thing working. So if you want to just get to practicing and start out that way, you can really do it relatively cheaply. You can take any pedal board. There are kits that you can buy to put MIDI capable contacts onto pedals and keys and that sort of thing. And it's really not that hard to do. It just takes a little measuring and a little patience to sit there and do it. So there is good news. You don't have to spend many tens of thousands of dollars to get a pretty nice sounding setup. I just happen to be really lucky at the right time.
So for the 4 manuals and 4 piston rails, pedal board, bench, and 3 expression shoes, I ended up paying $750. And then we spent $1,500 on a computer that had, it's playing a lot of recordings that have to get called up really fast. So you need to have a good processor, and you need to have a lot of memory because these sample sets take up a lot of space. And then we spent maybe a couple $100 on touch screens. And, our music room is not that big. And I've got this nice set of relatively high-end computer speakers, but that also have a subwoofer that just sort of takes over at a certain point and in the tenor and the bass range and picks up some of the lower pitches. It's not ideal, but it sounds really good. And I think the individual sounds are all very clear and sound good. But as you start to layer more and more recordings on top of each other, if you want to keep that clarity, you really need to channel this out to different speakers or have larger speakers that have high, middle, and low end built into them all. But the nice thing is at nighttime, you can practice in headphones. And oftentimes that ends up sounding better than if you had a really cheap pair of speakers. So overall, I would guess I spent $2,500 to $3,000 in there. The table that it's all set up on is just something you can get from IKEA. I can't remember the model of it, but I'm sure you could find it pretty easily. The legs unscrew and rescrew, and you can adjust them to any height. So you can adjust them to the AGO standard height for the the lowest manual. As for the program, I haven't gone on the Hauptwerk website for a while, but I know you can try it out for free if you want to just give it a shot and hook up your MIDI keyboard to it. I don't know if it still does, but it used to always come with one free organ sample. I think it was St. Mary's or it was a little English parish church. And it's a pretty nice little sample set. So you can try it out. The licenses, you can buy them for either a certain amount of time or you can get a perpetual one. I got a 1-year license for $100, and then I knew that I was just going to keep using it. And I just got the perpetual one, and you pay once and that's it. You're good to go indefinitely. So if you try it out and you're going to use it for a while, just spend the money on the perpetual license. As far as the sample sets, I have 4 sample sets in my organ, and it's pretty well maxed out now. One of them is very large. I paid $300 for it. It was a Whiteford Aeolian Skinner from Pasadena. And between that and the 3 other free ones, it's actually probably the least convincing of them. And so I almost never use it at this point. One of the nice things about the program Hauptwerk, though, is there's tons of adjustments you can make, not just with tuning, but with volume control and voicing. You can make things, you can make them fatter sounding or skinnier sounding, brighter, duller, and that sort of thing. So I was really able to go through and spend a lot of time doing so-called tonal regulation to get it sounding a bit better. One of the sample sets I have is a free sample. It's a G. Donald Harrison Aeolian Skinner from, I think it used to be in Connecticut and has since been moved to a church in Pennsylvania. There was this sort of, it's got a kind of a peculiar choir division, and there was a viola that didn't really do much of anything useful. And each, like I think Kathy said before, some of them are recorded close up, so you get a dry sound, and some in the room where you get the ambient reverb. This particular one has 2 recordings, one up close and one far away, playing together. So you get a little bit more of a surround sound effect. But one thing I was able to do was take one of the recordings and tune the one recording slightly higher, and the other one just stayed at pitch. And so when you push that viola, you get a viol celeste just from the one stop. And so you have 3 levels of celestes now, the kind of fat viola da gamba on the swell, the skinnier one down on the choir, and then Kleine Erzähler also on the choir. So there's a lot of cool stuff you can do to kind of further customize these sample sets. Another one that I really like is a modern German organ in Friesach. And I'm actually I have if anyone's interested, I have links that I'm going to send right now in the group chat to the free Aeolian Skinner sample and the free German sample. They're both really nice. And I also have a link to this guide. If you're totally new to Hauptwerk, like I was when I started, I don't know if you can see it, but it's a guide, like Hauptwerk for Dummies, basically. And that was extremely helpful. And I just sent the 3 links in the group chat. Other books that were somewhat less helpful, but it depends on what it is that you want to do exactly. There's this one that I ordered, Building a Hauptwerk Organ Step by Step. It wasn't that much, I can't remember, but I found it online. That one's a little bit more focused on if you're actually building your own console from scratch. So it can be helpful with that. And this one called All About Hauptwerk. I don't remember where I got that one, but it's written by Kenneth A. Spencer, and I got that online too. And that tells you a little bit more about all the technical stuff that you can do in the program. So it's there. All 3 of those guides are helpful for really different things. So you can take a look at those if you're a noob like I was. As far as things I'm planning to add, the only thing is I've got it on this IKEA table, and it serves its purpose really well, but we have an old house that was built in the late 1890s, and this thing sticks out like a sore thumb because everything else around it's an antique. So I do a lot of woodworking. So one of the things I'd like to do is buy an older console shell and sort of retrofit it into that so that it fits in better with the rest of the house. Other than that, maybe get an external hard drive so I can have another couple of sample sets. But these free ones are very nice, and I would really, really recommend those. As far as the space restraints with trying to get it in the door, you can, if you're not having one built by someone, it's really easy to carry most of these components in yourself. The manuals I have from Classic Organ Works, they, unlike the ones David showed you, these sort of, the key cheeks, you screw them into the key cheeks, and then there are pegs that sort of nest into one another. So you can have the manuals individually and carry them one at a time, or add them over time if you want. And then on the top of that is the music desk, which you can sort of see in the background. It pulls out, and anytime I'm writing music, and I still do it the old-fashioned way, but I can pull the desk out and write on it a little closer so I don't have to reach to the very top. It's been, like I said, my church is far away, and it has a wonderful, wonderful pipe organ, but I don't want to drive almost an hour just to do practicing. What's that?
Indeed, it is a very nice organ. I have played it.
And will again. So it's been nice for practicing in that sense, but as far as making me practice as much as I should, like David said, it hasn't really helped with that. I've got 2 young kids at home, so that perpetually goes lower and lower on the priority list as the day goes on. One thing I was going to say about going back to the different features and things you can, ways you can change and customize each sample, there are different reverb settings. I've tried to find samples that have at least a second or 2 of reverb in the room. Some of them have more. I find that the added reverb just sounds weird. It's not like the old reverb where it was basically made with a metal sheet vibrating. It's not that bad, but there's something just really artificial sounding about it, especially the longer the reverb goes. I've also found the program can be a little bit finicky. I don't know how it is with the more sophisticated setups, like Kathy, your organ you bought from a company. So I don't know if they've configured it differently or what. But I find that sometimes things are frozen, or you can't select new stops. You can still use the pistons, and then you have to close the program down and start it again. And maybe that's an easy fix, but I just haven't had the time or the ambition to figure out what the deal is with that.
I see comments to that effect online just constantly. People have problems, but in more than a year and 13 months of using it, I've never had an issue.
Okay.
That specific thing's never happened to me either. So.
Well, to be fair, I haven't had like I said, I haven't had the ambition to really search into it. I just turn it off and back on, and we're good to go. I can't remember what else I was going to tell you. I think that about covers everything. The only thing with my setup at least, is you have to be online to start the program and to switch sample sets, because it has to register your iLok account to prove that you own it. David?
So I did get around, probably Kathy has the same. I got around that by buying the little iLok USB stick, and you can transfer all your licenses to that, and then you don't have to be online to be licensed.
Okay, thank you. I might do that.
$20 or something from iLok.com, I think.
And she's
Thank you.
Katie.
Huh?
Katie or Kathleen. Katie.
I'm sorry. Am I saying the wrong name for all this time?
I think we were saying Kathy, but she goes by Katie.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Katie.
Thank you very much.
I felt like it was wrong when I started saying it, but then I was just reading the nameplate on Zoom. I'm sorry.
We can call
the only other
Kathleen.
The only other thing that I was going to say is that as far as setting up everything physically, it was really pretty easy. You just need a set of MIDI cables, and the back of each keyboard and the pedal board has MIDI in and MIDI out. And you do MIDI in on one and MIDI out, chain to the next one, and you just keep going till you get to the pedal, and then go into the computer from there. So actually physically setting it up is really kind of a piece of cake. As far as refining it is a different story, but if you want to just, like I said, if you want to just get up and playing, you can take any keyboard and just get going with it. Now, if you do want to hear a little bit, I have a few recordings that I can play, and the sound quality would probably be better than me trying to play it and you hearing it through the computer microphone. However, the only recordings I have are on the sample set that is I think the least good, but you can at least get an idea of how it sounds. I said, hopefully you could hear that okay.
Yeah.
So that's about all I have. If anyone's got any questions.
I have a comment. I was telling the people before you got onto the call that I went to a Super Bowl party yesterday outside of New Haven, Connecticut, for a man who had a pipe organ in his house. And he was telling me about his church getting rid of their 40 rank organ to a church in Pennsylvania. And he borrowed microphones from his friends at Yale to sample the organ. And I believe that is the organ you were talking about.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's a nice sample set. Did the links all come through?
Yeah.
That I sent? Okay, good.
Right.
Yeah, and that Peter, or Piotr guy, he's got tons of free sample sets on his website, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot of good free, I mean, those are just the two I happen to have, but there are a lot of good sample sets out there. You have to search a little bit, but you don't have to pay $400 or $500 or more.
He made that one free because he wanted people to have this organ, access to this organ.
Well, I sort of remember that the story was that they didn't, up until right before construction on the building was going to take place, they didn't know what was going to happen to the organ, and he wanted there to be some record of it, and that was the best he could do. And then a church in Hershey, Pennsylvania, ended up buying it.
That's it.
And restoring it. Yeah.
Yeah, he had to do the recording between 2 and 4 in the morning for several days.
I do have a question kind of more broadly about Hauptwerk. Is that appropriate for this time?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Certainly.
So if you were to purchase a sample of, for lack of a better term, a historical instrument, right? Something maybe 19th century French or German, does the sample include kind of settings for what we would call like distinct features of those organs? For example, like a Rollschwelle for a German instrument or ventals for a French instrument. Does the sample include those kind of features, or is it just the sonic material from the organ?
Well, for some things, I don't know about like the German roller that you were talking about, but a lot of them come with things like the sounds of the stops coming out and other neat features like that. The blower turns on. One of the samples that I have, if you turn stops on and hold the keys down before the blower kicks in, it'll kind of, everything will come up to pitch. And there's one, if you close the swell box really gently, you don't hear anything, but the harder you push it open or close, the louder the crash of the swell shades is. So there are features like that, and I'm sure more important features than that are included in a lot of these sample sets, I would guess.
Yeah, so there are multiple French samples. I happen to have Sonus Paradisi's Con, actually an expanded version that somebody else put together, but where he models every single ventil. So, and I actually mapped it to all of my toe studs. So, between the orange, what's that thing, all the way through the coupler, the pedal couplers, whatever they're called in French, and then the ventils for each of the reed divisions or whatever. So you can really sit there and set up, Franck's A minor chorale exactly as Franck says, and then just start engaging the reeds, recite all the way down to whatever, Grand Orgue or something. But it's up to the sample set producer. So, Hauptwerk provides in their organ design module, they provide the ability for the sample set producer to do infinite things, any, GUI elements that they want, they can map to any internal functions. So people have even done, goofy stuff with tremulants and stuff like that. But short answer, yes. If you want to learn to play Franck or Vidor with ventils, you can. And I did. I tried it. Yeah.
You mentioned this organ. What was it? What the sample producers use? The
custom organ design module?
Yes. So is there a way to create your own instrument?
Yes.
Based off of a collection of samples?
Yeah, if you want to go and record every single pipe carefully and then denoise them all at home, you can. I mean, that's how this. So the one link that Shea shared, the Piotr Grabrowski, that guy, he's like a young guy in Poland or something, and he started that way, like by going with a recording device into churches and recording pipe by pipe by pipe. And his first, if you go to the top level of his website, like click on that second link that Shea sent and go up to the top to his list of instruments, I think they're in reverse order. The first like 7 or 8 he gave out for free because he was just trying to like prove that he could hang. And then
I suppose what I'm asking is if you were to have like 5 or 6 samples and you said, well, you know, I want the Borden from this sample and I want the diapason from this sample, can you basically create your own?
Sort of. So people have done so. Like there's tons of free instruments which are combinations of. So for example, just Sonus Paradisi, he has little demo sample sets for all of his organs. So he has some organ that's $700, but for free you can get 3 stops. And just to try it out, see if you like the sound. And he has dozens of these, and people have taken these and put them all together and made a whole organ out of all the little free bits and pieces of all the different instruments. And you can find all this, stuff. And if you yourself have little wave files, you can. Now the thing is, there's 2 kinds of sample sets from that Hauptwerk supports: unencrypted and encrypted. The unencrypted ones you can do what you want with, and you're just sort of like, trusted to not be a jerk about them. The encrypted ones you can't really edit that much, and so But yeah, and in addition to organs, there's harpsichords and other kinds of instruments. Anything that any keyboard instrument that's not touch sensitive. Like I have a couple of harpsichords in Hauptwerk that people have sampled. With all the different combinations of registration on a harpsichord, right? Such as they are. So I think that's a long yes, but conditional yes. Yeah, you could, if you have an unencrypted sample set and you don't like the 16-foot Borden and you go record your own 16-foot Borden, you could try to throw it in there and replace the one that's in the sample set for sure. The custom organ design module is under the design tools menu in the product. You can edit around as much as you like. People, users have made their own screens. Some sample set producer, maybe doesn't have a screen in the orientation that they want, and they'll just build their own screen and wire up all the. It's crazy, the depth that people go to.
I have a question for any of the presenters, kind of a pretty general question. So I've dabbled with Hauptwerk a little bit here and there, and also with some other similar programs. I guess Hauptwerk's main competition in terms of virtual pipe organ software would be Grandorg, but there are others. So I'm curious for any of the presenters whether you have messed with any of the others and have points of comparison, and if so, what made you choose Hauptwerk over Grandorg or some other? Was it the sample sets available, features, quality in general, anything and everything?
Pipe loops is another one.
I didn't make any comparison at all.
Shea?
I had heard of Grandorg, but most of the stuff that I saw online, seemed to be more support for Hauptwerk and a lot more samples, but it just seemed to be what everyone, at least around here, used, and I figured that'd just be easier, because if I can't figure this out, it'll be easier to find someone nearby that can help me out. So I didn't even look into anything else.
Yeah. So in 2014, when I started, Hauptwerk was definitely the only thing that had a fighting chance of working properly on that kind of hardware. I looked a little bit into Grandorg more recently, but unfortunately, you can Google it and read it for yourself.
Okay, I'm gonna a quick question. I'm going to throw this out to everybody. How would you say Hauptwerk, in its current state, compares to Walker?
In terms of sound or?
Well, yeah, quality, user friendliness, all of it.
I think it's really hard to compare because one's bespoke, kind of pre-built organ console with 1 billion speakers, and the other one's like a piece of software that you run on your computer at home.
Oh, okay. So you would say Walker is way more. The technology is just a lot more with Walker than it would be with Hauptwerk.
You have a different market, right? They don't produce like desktop software.
No. Oh, okay. I guess I'm referring mostly to sound.
I think that's really hard to tell because Have you ever heard a Walker installation in a living room? Probably not, right? Like,
Probably not. No, I have not.
I actually have once, but that's another story.
Oh, really?
Why is it another story? It's for right now.
Oh, well, there was a guy who had a Walker theater organ in his living room down in the Atlanta area. This is more than a decade ago. It's been more than a decade since I've lived down there. But I think this person maybe has since passed away. Definitely doesn't live there anymore. But I did once go to a private home concert featuring three top theater organists. One of whom was Jelani Eddington, playing on a Walker in someone's living room. But that's the only Walker installation in a private home that I've ever been aware of. There's probably at least one or two more somewhere, but
Well, I didn't think about that aspect of it.
One of the
Yeah.
biggest differences with Hauptwerk is it is fully customizable for better or for worse. So the for better part is you can literally do whatever you want with it and configure any button to be anything you want. And there are people who've actually built physical draw knobs with little electromagnets that pop in and out as you press. It supports all that stuff, but it really is kind of what you build yourself or what somebody builds for you versus something like Walker or Johannes or whatever, where they're building the whole thing together. They're creating the software to go with the hardware and delivering the whole thing with the speakers as a package that is what it is. And maybe there's a knob you can turn to select American sound versus French sound or whatever, but it's all something that they engineered together versus Hauptwerk, which is whatever you make of it in a way.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about the many advances that are happening, and it just I mean, from year to year, it just seems to be getting more and more sophisticated.
The thing I like about Hauptwerk is because it's just touchscreens, you can have any stop layout. The disadvantage is it's just touchscreens, so there's nothing physical. You really do have to get used to just stabbing at a piece of glass to change your stops.
So I've seen something about somebody designing, draw knobs with solenoids, but they have like little LCD screens in the face, and then they can. I'm sure they'll be really expensive when they're tested and available, but
yeah, I did see
it's on
that.
the horizon. But
I did see that. Yeah, that's right. Depends how far you want to go.
yeah, well, that's part of the thing with the sound quality too. It depends on your setup and how sophisticated your sound system is and the samples themselves. And I'm sure the setup that I have here, which sounds great in this room that's like 300 square feet, and if I took it to my church, it wouldn't even be able to hear it.
Right.
So it's hard to make that comparison.
It's really convenience is the key, I think. That's really what you're getting more than anything, right? Don't you think? Yeah. Whether or not we take advantage of it, it is incredibly convenient. It's like having a piano in your house, right? Versus having to drive somewhere to practice a piano. And that people would think it would be crazy to drive somewhere to practice a piano, but organs kind of like that, where you're like, oh, guess I'll get in my car and go practice. So just for that, that's why I was such an early adopter on this, because I was just, I'm like a night owl, and it was always midnight by the time I was trying to learn a piece of music, and it's kind of like weird to be in churches at that time of day for various reasons. So either you can't be, or people question why you're there, or ghosts come and haunt you. Anything could happen.
Of course, you don't have to do Hauptwerk to have an organ in your home.
True. But at this price point, it's hard to find another alternative, right?
And I think for most, digital organs, the sound is better on Hauptwerk than most. I mean, and that's the thing that's crazy to me. More than half of the digital organs you hear sounds like they sampled other electronic organs. And, some schmuck like me who has no idea what he's doing can just put this together in their living room or in their music room, and it sounds much better than, these places that have factories full of people doing this for a living. So I think it's really nice, because of that too. You can't get that quality of sound, for the cost.
Right, certainly not for the cost. And Allen and Rogers, they just move a lot more slowly. You know, some hotshot sample set producer in Romania comes up with, you know, some gorgeous sample sets, and it's yours for $500 right there. Whereas if you have an Allen, $30,000 Allen in your house, and you know, what are you gonna do? Replace it? Maybe you can flash the memory to some extent to improve it, but it's not really the market, right? The market is churches that are going to buy one, and every 30 years just buy another one.
Wow. Yeah.
If you're lucky.
Well, any other questions, comments? I kind of want to wrap this up soon.
Should I play my little videos? Is that the only one?
I'd just like to say this is a little bit off topic, but thank you to David. That Monmouth AGO website with those local organ specs. I've always remembered that, and every now and then look back at it. I was a secondary member of the Monmouth chapter for a year or two before it folded, although I only got to a couple of events.
I'm glad I kept the website then. When the chapter folded, everybody was like, "Stop paying for the website, just delete it." And I was like, "Oh, that's so sad. Should keep it." So.
Oh, do we still have the Facebook page, Monmouth?
Yeah, I mean, Facebook's forever, right?
Yeah. We're still
Nobody
here.
can do it.
The Monmouth chapter's still here. Just we're not a chapter.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad you said that though, Thomas. Yeah, that's because it was it was my little passion project. I think I only got to 6 or 7 organs, but still.
They're pretty cool.
Awesome.
And some of those organs no longer exist.
Sad.
Stephen, this has been really great. Thank you.
Yeah. Glad we did this. Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen.